You think a girl like you belongs in a place like this?" The voice came from behind her, smooth, deep, and cruelly amused. Heads turned in the marble lobby of First Federal Trust Bank of Manhattan, a place where even the air smelled expensive. At the counter stood Ember Williams, 14 years old, small for her age, wearing a thrift store coat and church shoes that squeaked on the polished floor. She clutched a creased folder against her chest, the corners worn soft from being held too often. "I just want to access my grandmother's account," she said quietly. Laughter rippled through the line, not loud, but sharp enough to sting. "Welcome back. How you all doing today? Here is another story that will interest you. Before we dive and support the channel, like, subscribe, and share to make it go viral." Now let's continue. At the back stood Logan Barnes, billionaire investor, board member, and heir to the Barnes financial empire. He looked down at her like she'd wandered into a world that wasn't hers. "From where, sweetheart?" he smirked. "The piggy bank." Ember didn't answer. She kept her eyes on the teller, a young man whose polite smile faltered as he typed her grandmother's name, Eudora Williams. The computer beeped. The screen flashed, and then it froze. For a moment, nobody breathed. Logan's grin began to fade as the teller leaned closer, frowning at whatever he was seeing. Numbers appeared, long, impossible numbers. The color drained from the billionaire's face. The laughter stopped. The marble lobby went silent, except for the faint hum of the air vents. Ember didn't know what had changed, but she could feel it. The weight in the room had shifted, away from her and straight toward him. She exhaled, steady and sure. For the first time in his life, Logan Barnes had nothing to say. Freeze. The world pauses on that moment. The billionaire silenced, the girl unshaken. That morning had started differently. 5 blocks uptown, the winter sun had broken through Harlem's gray skyline as Ember walked to the bank, clutching that same folder. Inside was a letter from her late grandmother, written in delicate, slanted handwriting, promising something Ember couldn't yet understand. "When you're old enough to know the truth," it said, "go to the bank. Ask for the account under my name. It's for you, Ember, for when you need a way out." She didn't yet know what a way out meant, but today she would find out. The bank doors hissed shut behind her. The marble floor gleamed like a frozen lake, and the air smelled faintly of polished brass and perfume. Ember tightened her grip on the letter, her grandmother's final secret, and stepped forward. Adults in tailored suits formed a perfect line before her, their heels clicking like a metronome of importance. She was the only child, the only black face in a room built on money and legacy. Conversations softened as she took her place at the end of the line. Someone near the front whispered, "Maybe she's lost." Ember stared straight ahead. Lost wasn't the word. She was exactly where she was meant to be, even if no one else believed it. When it was her turn, the teller gave her a polite, practiced smile. "How can I help you today?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. "My grandmother left something for me here. Her name was Eudora Williams." The teller began typing. His smile stayed for a moment, then faltered. His eyes flicked to the screen, then back to her face. Something had shifted, something small but heavy. Behind her, a deep voice broke the silence. "Withdrawn money? From where, sweetheart?" "The piggy bank." Laughter rippled through the lobby, bright and cruel. Ember didn't turn around. The voice, Logan Barnes, carried the kind of confidence born from too many yes. She'd seen his face before, smiling from billboards above the city, a man born into everything she'd been denied. But she stood her ground. The teller leaned closer, concern furrowing his brow. He typed again. The cursor blinked. Then he swallowed hard. "Miss," he whispered, glancing toward the manager's office. "Can you wait here a moment?" The laughter faded. The marble floors seemed to hum beneath her shoes. Ember clutched the letter to her chest, her grandmother's looping script pressing against her heart. Some people laugh when they don't understand your worth. But if you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever been told you don't belong, hold on to that moment. It might be the day everything changes. The teller's nervous glance was enough to stir the room's stillness. He picked up the phone, murmured a few words, and within moments, a man with silver hair and sharp posture appeared behind the counter. His name tag read R. Hale, branch manager. Mr. Hale leaned over the monitor, scanning the screen. His brows drew tight. "Where did you get this account name, miss?" Ember lifted her chin. "It belonged to my grandmother, Eudora Williams." He looked at her, then back at the screen, typing slowly. The system flickered, and a new line appeared across the monitor. Bold, red, unmistakable. Founder-level account. Confidential access only. A low murmur swept through the lobby. Logan Barnes stepped closer, irritation in his voice. "This is ridiculous. My grandfather founded this bank. There's no such record." Mr. Hale didn't respond right away. He adjusted his glasses. The glow from the monitor reflected in his eyes. Finally, he said softly, "Actually, sir, there is." Logan blinked. "Excuse me." Hale's voice stayed even, but his tone carried something heavy. "It's under the name Eudora Williams. Created in 1958. Founder authorization required." Silence blanketed the room. Ember's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her fingertips. Logan's smirk faltered, replaced by something unfamiliar, uncertainty. "That's impossible," he muttered, stepping closer to the counter. "I would know every founder account. My grandfather." The screen suddenly blinked. The polite blue interface turned crimson. "Access restricted. Founder's key required." A metallic chime echoed through the bank. Everyone froze. Mr. Hale stared at the screen, whispering almost to himself, "In 30 years, I've never seen this system activate." Ember tightened her hold on the letter. Something her grandmother left behind was waking up. Logan's voice broke through the heavy silence like glass shattering. "This is fraud," he snapped. "A cleaning woman couldn't have access to a founder-level account. It's absurd." Ember's hands trembled slightly as she reached into her backpack. "It's not fraud," she said quietly. "It's proof." She unfolded the letter, the one her grandmother had written in her careful, slanted handwriting. The parchment was old, edges singed from the fire that had taken their home. But at the bottom, beneath Eudora Williams's name, was an emblem pressed in dark ink, a key enclosed by a circle of ivy. The moment Richard Hale saw it, the color drained from his face. "Good Lord," he whispered. "That's Samuel Barnes's personal seal." The words hung in the air like thunder before a storm. Logan blinked, his confidence cracking. "That can't be. My grandfather never." He stopped, the sentence collapsing under its own weight. Hale leaned closer, his voice dropping to a hush. "This seal was used only for the founder's most private agreements. If your grandmother had this, it means she had direct authorization from Samuel Barnes himself." Ember's heart thudded in her chest. The letter felt heavier now, alive in her hands. She looked down, reading aloud the final line written in her grandmother's looping script. "What's yours is waiting where dust sleeps and truth breathes." The words sent a quiet chill through the room. Hale's gaze lifted slowly from the letter to Ember. "There's only one place that fits that clue," he murmured, almost to himself. Logan frowned. "And where's that supposed to be?" Hale's answer came soft but certain. "The basement vault." The room fell silent, and somewhere deep below, the building seemed to exhale. The elevator groaned as it descended past the main floors, deeper than Ember thought a bank could go. The air grew colder, thick with the scent of metal and time. Logan stood rigid beside her, silent for once, while Richard Hale held a small flashlight that cut through the dim corridor. When the doors opened, a vault stretched before them. Endless rows of boxes and safes, each marked with fading numbers. But one, near the far wall, seemed to wait for them. It was older than the rest, blackened with age, its surface carved with a familiar emblem, a key wrapped in ivy. Ember stepped closer. The light trembled in her hands as she traced the pattern her grandmother had drawn in her letter. The metal felt alive beneath her fingertips, warm, almost welcoming. Then with a soft click, the safe opened. Inside sat a single bronze key and an envelope, its paper brittle, its ink still strong. Across the front, in looping script, were the words, "To the one who carries Eudora's name." Her throat tightened as she opened it. The note inside read, "If you're reading this, you've already faced their doubt. This key unlocks what they owe, not what you owe them." The words pulsed with quiet power. Ember pressed the letter to her chest, tears burning behind her eyes. If you've ever carried someone's legacy, a parent's dream, a grandparent's love, this is your moment to honor them. Some stories are written not on paper, but in blood, sacrifice, and truth. Ember closed her fist around the bronze key. Its weight felt heavier than gold. She didn't know it yet, but this small piece of metal was about to rewrite history, and her name along with it. The elevator doors slid open to the hushed murmur of the main floor. Every sound, the clicking pens, the shuffle of papers, seemed to stop as Ember stepped out, clutching the bronze key. Richard Hale guided her back to the manager's console, his expression solemn. Logan followed, pale and restless, his polished confidence fraying at the edges. "Are you sure about this?" Hale asked gently. Ember nodded once. "My grandmother trusted me with it." Hale inserted the key into the console slot. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the machine gave a deep hum, the kind that seemed to come from the bones of the building itself. The screen flickered, turned gold, and a line of text appeared. Eudora Williams, co-founder share account. The teller gasped, hand flying to his mouth. Logan stepped closer, disbelief clouding his voice. "No, that's not." She was a maid. "My grandfather would never." But Hale's trembling voice cut him off. "It's true. Look, account creation, 1958. Ownership, 41%. He turned to Ember, his eyes wide. "Your grandmother wasn't just an employee, Miss Williams. She was the co-founder of this bank." The silence that followed was the kind that weighed on souls. Logan's face drained of color as the truth rewrote everything he thought he knew about his family. Ember stood still, her pulse steady, her grandmother's words echoing in her mind. She looked at the glowing screen, her name beside Eudora's, and felt generations of labor, sacrifice, and silence rise to the surface. Logan whispered, "That's impossible." "She cleaned our floors." Hale's reply was quiet but sharp. "Yes, and built your empire." Ember lifted her chin, eyes glistening. "She built it so I could stand here today." The glow of the monitor painted the marble floor in pale gold. Logan's face hardened, his composure finally cracking. "This is a mistake," he snapped. "Mr. Hale, shut it down. Lock the account before this nonsense goes any further." Hale hesitated. "Sir, with respect, I can't interfere with a founder level." "I said shut it down." Logan barked, slamming his palm against the counter. The sudden noise made Ember flinch, but she didn't step back. Not this time. The screen flickered. A shrill alert cut through the room. Sharp, mechanical, unforgiving. Red text flashed across the display. "Unauthorized transfer attempt detected. Source: Logan Barnes Terminal." Everyone turned toward him. Logan's eyes went wide. "That's not me. I didn't." He lunged toward the keyboard, but Hale pulled him back. Another message appeared. "Transfer reversal initiated by keyholder Ember E. Williams." The room fell into stunned silence. The only sound was the faint hum of the bank's servers, acknowledging the command. Ember's hand rested calmly on the console. Her voice, when it came, was steady, too steady for a 14-year-old. "My grandmother said not to let anyone take what's ours again." The words lingered, quiet but absolute. Hale looked at her with a mixture of awe and reverence, as if watching history correct itself. Logan, meanwhile, stood motionless, stripped of the power he'd worn like armor his whole life. The monitors around them dimmed, the system sealing itself with a final tone of closure. For the first time, Logan Barnes, heir to a dynasty built on other people's labor, realized he was powerless in the very bank his family once ruled. And Ember Williams was just beginning to understand how powerful she truly was. The room was still humming when the main screen blinked once, then again. The red warning faded, replaced by a single, pulsing icon. Hale squinted at it. There's a file here." The words glowed softly. "Legacy for Ember." No one spoke. Hale clicked. The image came to life, grainy, sepia-toned, yet steady. An old man sat behind a mahogany desk, sunlight spilling through tall windows behind him. His voice was slow, weary but tender. "If you're watching this, my dear," he began, Then Eudora's courage outlived my silence. Logan froze. Ember didn't breathe. Samuel Barnes's eyes, kind, regretful, looked straight into the camera, straight through time. She was the true builder of this institution, he continued. While I signed papers, she built trust. While I gained wealth, she earned respect. Her name was erased by greed, mine. These shares, this legacy, belong not to the Barnes name, but to hers, to her family. A murmur rippled through the lobby. Employees stepped closer, drawn by the voice of the man whose portrait hung in the marble hall. Samuel's tone softened. She asked for nothing. I gave her promises instead of justice. But she gave this bank its soul. Without her, it would have collapsed long before my sons took over. Logan's jaw trembled. He sank onto the nearest chair, his voice barely a whisper. He knew. All this time, tears glistened in his eyes, not from pride, but from the unbearable weight of truth. Around him, no one laughed, no one spoke. The empire he had defended so fiercely was built on the woman they had all overlooked. Samuel Barnes looked directly into the lens one last time. If any Barnes laughs at a Williams again, he said, his voice firm as stone, the world will remember who kept the bank alive. The video ended, but the silence that followed carried more power than words. The echoes of Samuel Barnes's voice still lingered in the marble hall when Ember stepped forward. Her hands no longer trembled. She pressed her thumb to the glowing console, and the system registered her touch with a soft chime. Account holder, Ember E. Williams. The teller smiled gently, sliding a silver debit card across the counter. Her name etched in clean letters, proud and permanent. Ember traced her initials with quiet reverence. I'd like to withdraw just enough to pay for school, she said. Her tone was calm, certain, a choice made not from pride, but from purpose. Mr. Hale nodded, eyes shining with something like respect. Your grandmother would be proud. Across the room, Logan stood by the window, the city stretching endlessly beyond the glass. His reflection looked older now, humbled by truth. She brought me cocoa when I was little, he murmured, voice breaking. And I laughed at her granddaughter. Ember didn't answer. She didn't need to. The truth had already spoken louder than any revenge could. She gathered her folder, the bronze key tucked safely inside, and turned toward the doors. When she stepped outside, Manhattan sunlight washed over her face, warm, real, and bright. The city that once made her feel invisible now shimmered with possibility. She looked up at the skyline, her grandmother's voice echoing softly in her memory. What they bury in silence, we uncover in truth. If Ember's story touched you, carry it forward. Somewhere, someone is still fighting to be seen, to be believed. Let this moment be your reminder that stories like hers don't end in silence. They live when we choose to listen, to share, and to honor the courage that built them. If the story touches you, don't stop supporting us. Like, subscribe, and share to make it go viral.